All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and try and do a bit of a response video here. I touched a couple of days ago in our news segment on the fact that the Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores DLC was getting immediately review bombed by a lot of people for incorporating what apparently has, and I haven't played it, but apparently it has, Guerrilla Games has incorporated the potential for the player to um, have Aloy engage in a same-sex relationship. And the game has been getting review bombed for it. And which I don't think is fair. I don't think that's fair. And what is, it's like, I basically, I have a video that basically expressed my sentiments on this situation the other day. It's been receiving a good amount of attention, and people have been commenting and kind of going back and forth on this. So I'll link this in chat real quick. So if anybody wants to, hasn't seen this or isn't familiar with it. But I feel the need to kind of do a response to this real quick and talk about what some people are trying to say about why it's like they're trying to defend the fact that the game's getting review bombed for including this kind of content. Okay. And some of the things that I don't agree with, people are like, well, some of the things I've seen in reviews, people are saying they've never indicated that Aloy ever had these feelings before in the games. So they didn't expect to see it now, and it's like, we're not talking about Horizon being 4 iterations deep in the series at this point or anything. This is game number 2. And, I think it's been basically indicated at this point by Guerrilla Games through the DLC. And what we know is that they're basically planning on bringing Horizon 3 to us. They're planning on, and so they're probably, it's quite possible. I think people need to at least entertain the idea that what they're doing is trying to, develop the character more. If they're planning on continuing to release content for this game, more in the series of this game, and it's going to continue to have to do with Aloy, then there's the potential. They're trying to continue to develop story around the character, the main character, which quite often can have to do with romantic relationships. And one of the things, some of the sentiments I've heard, people are like, well, maybe people are just turned off by the fact that, that they've never shown Aloy as having any kind of romantic interest before. And now, why do this now? And it's like, dude, this is game number 2. People are talking like this is like game number 4 or game number 5. And now all of a sudden they're doing it as like some kind of ploy for, the LGBTQ, political propaganda or something. And it's like, I just don't see it like that. I don't see it like that. I think, to me, it comes off more about the fact that it's probably just having to do with the fact that they're trying to expand upon who Aloy is because there's going to be more games coming about. And that's the way this works. The more games there are set within a particular series, and the more they surround a particular character, the more people want to get to know those characters and that universe, and the more those stories get fleshed out by the developer, right? That's immersion, dude. And so I don't necessarily agree with that statement and that sentiment that it's like, well, they never showed anything before, so why would they do it now? Why wouldn't they? And again, it's not it's not like we're 3, 4, 5 series, of the game's end of the series at this point. This is number 2, So on that front, I don't necessarily agree with that statement. I've had a lot of other people making comments about how, and this is it's a constant for the people that are against it. This is what they keep saying. It's being thrown in my face. It's being thrown in my face. Yo, random mode time. Get them in there. Um, and it's kind of comical because in a way because these individuals keep saying things like it doesn't bother me, you know, the LGBTQ stuff, those kinds of relationships and that community doesn't bother me, but they keep throwing it in my face. They keep throwing it in my face, you know, and um it's they keep trying to refer to it as like political propaganda. Why do they keep having to shove their politics in my face and stuff? First and foremost, I think what people need to understand is that I think anytime, you know, it's unfortunate that it has to be viewed as politics all the time, but you're failing to recognize the fact that you're talking about a group of people that have been discriminated and persecuted forever in the history of the world for simply wanting to love other people. And so, is it a hot topic in politics nowadays? Yes. But do you think most of those people within those communities actually want it to be a hot topic in politics because they have to fight for their civil justice and their civil rights to be able to just love other people when really it shouldn't be an issue? Absolutely not. You know, so people keep going, you know, they're throwing their politics in my face, they're shoving it down my throat, but it seems very hypocritical to me, right? So when it literally all it was Guerrilla Games threw in a relationship into a game. That's all it was. And apparently it's an option even. You don't even have to engage in it, but it's just an option. And I think the thing that's crazy is that, you know, if it had been Aloy engaging in a relationship, a heterosexual relationship, we wouldn't even be having this discussion more than likely because it's stereotypical and it's normal or whatever, you know, quote unquote normal, right? And but whenever it's just, you know, and the thing that sucks about it is that so people go, well, it's just Guerrilla Games shoving, you know, the political LGBTQ political propaganda and stuff down my throat and in my face, and that's what I keep seeing it in these comments, and that's what people keep referring to it as. I don't have a problem with that community, but they just keep shoving it in my face, keep shoving it down my throat, you know, and it's like you're making it an issue because you're bringing it up as an issue rather than just seeing it as a relationship between characters in the game that are loving one another. You're the one that's making it an issue in the game, really. Yeah. And the thing that sucks is it is very hypocritical. So basically what you're saying is that, you know, same-sex relationships can't be portrayed in mainstream media and entertainment, right? But it's fine for heterosexual relationships to be. And that doesn't make sense. That's not fair. So you've got an entire demographic of people that can be represented and then an entire demographic of people that cannot be represented. And that's not fair. You can't do that. You can't be hypocritical about that, right? And then I've had other people in the comments of that video stating they go to the extent of taking it into a whole nother level of like, you know, it's like they're upset not necessarily about this, but about some entirely other separate instance of like something that had to do, like one of the things I specifically remember was somebody commenting about, you know, they started off with, well, they're throwing this in my face. They're throwing this, you know, LGBTQ propaganda and political agenda and stuff in my face all the time. And and they kept like, it basically funneled down to them finally getting to what the root of their problem was that at wherever they lived, their child was going to a school where it was basically they were trying to make children basically attend a class at a very young age about these kinds of subjects, which I agree. It was much too early, and that's kind of crazy. I would not be about that. But the thing is, it seems like people are trying to take other issues in life that politics are creating issues behind it, and they're feeding the flames behind it, and you're not taking into consideration that a lot of these people in this community would much rather have never had to have this be a political issue, but they've been persecuted, and forever they've been persecuted. And they've been discriminated against. And so they've had to fight for their rights, where people of normal relationships haven't. And so it's just for all those people that are of the heterosexual, persuasion, that's what they lean towards, then, it's just always been normal, right, to see that kind of thing in media and in entertainment. And so when it's not portrayed, if something opposite to that is portrayed, they throw a fit. Because all of a sudden it's political propaganda. Instead of it just being equally portraying what maybe somebody else, other people in the world tend to side with or flow with, And that just doesn't make sense to me at all. So yes, I know there's a lot of I understand that people don't want to see politics be shoved into their games because there's too much political crap in the world that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis of real world stuff. I get that. We play video games because it's an immersive experience that takes us away from the stressors and the crap that we have to deal with in day-to-day real life. Absolutely. I agree with that. But I think that, having a stance of taking any kind of relationship that might be abnormal to what you consider to be a normal relationship as propaganda, and not considering the fact that it needs to be ingrained in our society in order to represent demographics of people that are not like you, is not fair, and it's hypocritical. So people need to be better about trying to put yourselves in other people's shoes, right? And understand, I know there's a lot of ins and outs to this topic and how it's affecting people's, wherever you live, if it's the U.S., whatever, there's different ways in which it's being handled state to state or whatever. The world, it's always been an issue, unfortunately, right? Unfortunately. And but I think that people need to understand that it's not fair that only one group of people, which is considered the norm, gets to be represented, while anytime another group of people tries to be represented in entertainment, it's taken as, it being shoved in the other group's face. It's not fair. It shouldn't be like that. So I'll upload this too, and I'm sure there are going to be people that disagree with it, but this is what I think people need to understand, that taking the time to try and see things from other people's point of view, right? I mean, this is how you get to being a more ethically and morally grounded individual, right? Seeing things from other people's point of view that don't necessarily aren't the same as you, yeah. Stepping into other people's shoes from time to time, seeing things from a different perspective, and how people have had to deal with things over time. I don't care if you're talking about race, sexual orientation, sexual preference, religion, whatever, dude. Again, so I think that it's not fair. It's not fair. And this is coming from somebody, myself, that is very much straight, I'm not attracted to men. You know, I've been married for a long time, and I'm happily married, and I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair that so many people get to take that sentiment of just, you know, a same sex relationship being portrayed in entertainment and go, oh, they're just shoving it down our throat. They're smashing. They're just, you know, rubbing it in our faces. You know, when it's like, I mean, you can't just accept the possibility that they're just trying to represent another demographic of people that should be represented. That's not a thing. I mean, that's not fair, man. It's hypocritical. Um, yeah, yeah, I think that's another thing. Yeah, people want to create as much of an issue out of things that they are uncomfortable with too. They people are gonna a lot of people will do this too. A lot of people will go, I don't have an issue, but they're really uncomfortable with it, and so they'll find ways to kind of roundabout make it an issue without trying to come off as like having a phobia about it, you know, or whatever. I think that's definitely part of it, you know. And I mean, I even there was another comment where somebody was trying to come off like they knew that in Hogwarts Legacy, I can't remember the character's name, but there was a trans character in that game. They were trying to come off like they knew that that character wasn't originally supposed to be a trans character. It's like, dude, you don't know that for a fact. You don't know that that character in that game was never supposed to be trans until there was so much of a you know, that character could have supposed to have been trans the whole time. Somebody was acting like they in the comments that they knew that that was the case the whole time, and I mean, unless you can prove that, you know, I've seen no proof of that. So I mean, you're projecting, you know, things onto developers like you have proof of it or whatever. And I mean, unless you were actually in on that development process, I'm sorry, I'm not going to believe you on that front. So I mean, people of different we're all different. We're all unique, and people being able to be represented in that way through our immersive games, I think, is important, as opposed to it just being a hypocritical stance where all what would be stereotypical normal, what you know society would consider normal or whatever, traditional or whatever, being okay to be represented, and then anything outside of that is taboo to be represented in mainstream media or entertainment. That's not fair, man. That's not fair. And then people just want to blow up and say, "Oh, they're just they're rubbing it in my face. They're shoving it in my face." It's not fair, man. You can't do that. You can't do that. So that's what I wanted to get across. And look, man, I appreciate people chiming in on the videos and stuff. But I do think that people need to be a bit more understanding and open about what this situation entails. And you want to start, you know, you can't be a hypocrite, dude. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. You can't be a hypocrite about it. You just can't. And you can't assume they're just trying to shove it in your face when they, I mean, that's all it was they were just trying to portray Aloy being in a relationship with somebody else. People want to turn it into something more than I think what it actually is. So that's my take, man. That's my take. So who knows? We might end up having to do a response. We might end up having to do a response video, you know? Yeah. I don't know. It's just so many people harbor so much hate about being different and not being able to accept differences in other people, you know? Oh no. No. No, you're fine, reject. Again, I mean, look, you know, the premise about this community and what we do here is ultimately being a welcoming, inclusive, safe place for everybody. And the big thing is, if we're going to discuss things, even if we have differing opinions or whatever, it's about being civil, right? So you're fine, man. I mean, we can flesh things out. We can talk about things. And I think that the thing for me was like, I saw so many things that I didn't necessarily agree with that people were stating in these comments of the video I put up the other day. It was going to be too hard to reply to all of them. And that's why I just felt like I needed to go ahead and make a video in response to it, so I can kind of tell everybody the way I feel in regards to a lot of these similar sentiments. And there were a lot of people that made very good comments all the way across, and there was a lot of different points of view coming in and everything, but I felt like it was important for me to maybe expand a little bit in regards to some of the comments I was getting there on that video, and how I feel, and how I feel like other people need to address this a little bit better. For a community that has traditionally and historically across the world been so very, hated on and discriminated against, and they still are, so you don't need to apologize to me, buddy. I mean, I'm always up for conversation in this community, as long as it maintains civility. That's what it's about. Can we be civil about things? That's what I'm talking about.